Next up, we got Absolute Mad Labs. What is this one? The North Hollywood Shootout, man. Hey, y'all like the last video? Y'all keep commenting what y'all want me to react to. You feel me? I'm looking at the comments. Anything y'all want me to react to, I'm gonna react to it. You feel me? Hey, I like the last one, so we're gonna react to more of these. Last one, what happened? The dude got in a shoot. The freak. Oh yeah, the 77-year-old man literally took out most of the what's it called, the Mexican cartel by himself. Feel me? 1v, like let's just say 1v like 10 or whatever. But hey man, let's see what every time.
If you have ever considered a life of crime, the last place that you'd probably want to rob nowadays is a bank. With security being massively ramped up and everyone using digital payments, going in to physically rob a bank today would be as worthless as it is stupid. However, there was a time where armed robberies of banks were a much more common occurrence. Though some of these robberies would end
Bro,
up
I ain't gonna
with
lie,
what.
bro. People do be robbing banks like it's normal. Like I remember this one person told me that they be robbing banks. Like I didn't think people really rob banks no more. Like, cause robbing a bank is like some movie shit almost. You feel me? So it's like I didn't think people really still did it. But hey,
One or two people getting hurt, armed robbers tended to avoid killing anyone because they just wanted to get the cash and get out of there as quickly as possible. But there was one bank robbery where this definitely was not the case. In fact, this bank robbery was so brutal, so extreme, that it completely changed the way that American police would deal with armed criminals forever. This is going to sound like I'm describing a scene from an exaggerated 80s action movie, but I'm not. This really happened.
but I'm not.
The North Hollywood Shootout.
I love how you just zoom in.
Commit one of the most violent armed robberies in American history. And the first robber we'll talk about is a man called Larry Eugene Phillips, who was born on the 20th of September 1970. We don't actually know where Larry was born because at the time of his birth, his parents were actually on the run from the law. His father had recently escaped from the Colorado State Reformatory and
Dang, imagine being born like people say you get born at a hospital or something. No, nigga, you got born like beside the street over there while we was running. Like we had to do it real quick. Like you almost wasn't born. We almost had to damn near abort your ass or something. I don't know. Feel me? We was trying to hide from the police. That's crazy.
his mother would later be jailed for drug smuggling. To prevent themselves from getting caught, they actually changed Larry's surname to Warfel, which they hoped would throw the scent off from the authorities. But they would end up getting a divorce when Larry was just 10 years old, and he would mostly stay with his mother in LA, at least when she wasn't getting arrested for being a drug mule. Despite all of the hardships that came with his parents' criminal lifestyles, Larry really looked up to his dad as a role model. In fact, he even willingly changed his surname back to Phillips when he was old enough to do so, in honour of his dad. Larry very often seen his dad getting into fights with the police and also being taken away by the local authorities when he was growing up. Over time, this made Larry harbour a seething hatred towards the police and ultimately led him to begin his own career in crime. The earliest known crime that we know Larry committed was in 1989, where he stole $400 worth of goods from affluent neighbourhoods in LA. He would then go on to do real estate scams. These scams involved him telling a
Hey
client
man, nobody real estate scams. Who know about Matthew Cox?
that he
You
had
don't know who that is? You can look him up. He stole. I think he was doing real estate scams and like bank scams. He made like, you want to say like 50 million. Feel me? And he's out. He didn't even get no more than like 10 years, 10 to 20 years. You feel me? Shit crazy as hell.
had a property for sale, only for the client to then discover afterwards that Larry did not own the property and the building was already occupied. But by that point, it was too late and Larry had already ran off with the cash. However,
I even hear what he said.
involved him telling a client that he had a property for sale, only for the client to then discover afterwards that Larry did not own the property and the building was already occupied. But by that point, it was too late and
Bro.
Larry had already ran off with the cash. However, this never really got Larry
How did
anywhere.
he do that though? What? How did he actually what? Because if it's people there, like he had to know when they not there to and set the whole like yeah. I wonder because I don't know when this happened, so I don't know if it was like the times was different from now, but you know from now if you selling the house, you have to have the whole house completely empty. It has to look like no one lives there. So it's like, how did he literally sell houses without them not being there, and then run off with the money? Like that's so lucky almost. But it might be different. I don't know.
Well, because he got caught and he was forced to pay $140,000 in damages to his victims. Despite this, Larry would try and learn from his mistakes and would attempt to conceal his identity from future victims. However, this very often involved stealing his own brother's ID and potentially framing his own brother for fraud if he ever got caught. Larry's own
Ah,
father saw him as a criminal genius and basically described him as an exact clone of himself. And what's funny is that
what?
instead of remembering his son with normal family photographs like everyone else does, he instead collected newspaper clippings documenting his son's crimes. And he even framed his son's
No,
mugshot
stop,
photo.
stop, stop.
I
What?
mean,
His mugshot?
yeah, he was proud of his son, but for all the wrong
Oh
reasons.
God, though.
Larry's
What the
brother
fuck,
was
bro? He literally saved his sons, bro. You tell me, your dad. Oh my God, that's this family corrupted us. I don't know what the fuck they got going on. Be honest, what is going on, bro? His son was just doing a whole bunch of bad shit. Every time his son was in the newspaper, his dad would literally take the what is it? He said a paper clip and just like basically just save every time that it was in the newspaper. He saved it, and then you feel me. Like, wow, that's just crazy. Then he literally framed his mugshot. Fuck.
a bit less charitable in his description of him, probably, but for all the wrong reasons. Larry's brother was a bit less charitable in his description of him, probably due to the whole nearly being framed for fraud thing. He said that Larry was very manipulative and would constantly try to rope people into his criminal schemes. And one such person was Larry's future partner in crime, Decibel Stefan Emilian Mataseranu, which is
Yeah, how long is your name?
a hell of a mouthful, so for the rest of the video, we're just going to call him Emil. Emil was born in Romania on the
Okay.
19th of
And I
July
say his whole name.
1966, and he moved over to the United States with his mother when he was only 10 years old, and eventually became a fully naturalized citizen in 1988. Unlike the extremely confident and sociable Larry, Emil was described by his mother as being incredibly introverted due to enduring harsh amounts of bullying while he was growing up. Also, unlike Larry, Emil tried to make his American dream come true through good and honest work at first. He earned a partial income from being a computer software consultant, but he mainly helped his mother run a care home for the mentally disabled. Unfortunately, neither of these enterprises did all that well, as Emil's computer repair activities didn't actually earn him much money, and the care home was eventually forced to close due to the maltreatment of the patients. During one particular inspection, social workers were shocked to find a woman locked in the basement of the premises without any food or water.
What?
Also, during one particular incident with a patient, Emil received a very bad blow to the head, which required him to get brain surgery. He would, from that point on, continue to suffer from epileptic seizures on an infrequent basis. Emil's family always found themselves in a financial struggle, as his mother would constantly borrow to make rent, and at one point they were behind around $4,000 worth of tax payments, and it's these desperate circumstances that would make Emil easy pickings for Larry to recruit him in many of his criminal enterprises. Both men first met at a Gold's Gym in Venice Beach, LA, sometime around 1989, and both men quickly formed a bond over their shared interests, which included weightlifting, bodybuilding, and a very, very keen interest in firearms. Larry eventually convinced Emil to become his henchman in the many criminal schemes that he would plot out. Emil was described by his family as not having the confidence to be viewed as an equal partner to Larry, so very often Emil would just do whatever Larry told him. This absolutely isn't to say that Emil was stupid though. In fact, part of the reason that Larry took a liking to Emil is because he was really intelligent. Emil would very often analyse criminal reports from the police and made notes as to how he and Larry could improve their own chances of getting away with scams and robberies. Within a year of meeting, however, Larry became an aggressively domineering part of Emil's life, despite being 4 years younger than him. Larry's brother described this as a deliberate tactic that Larry would use, saying that he would break your mind down and then build it up again so that you would become one of his crew. This even extended to Emil's choice of personal relationships. Larry would actually constantly berate Emil about pursuing American women because, and I quote, they have a habit of talking back. Now we all know that that is not true. It's not just American women. In fact, when Emil went back to Romania to bring his grandmother over to the States, Larry insisted that he meet and marry a woman while he was over there. It's quite the wingman. In 1990, Emil would return to California with his grandmother and newlywed wife, who he'd go on to have a few kids with. After Emil returned to America, Larry decided that it was time to start making some big money, as opposed to continuing their small-scale operations. And as the two men had an enthusiasm for firearms, the natural next step was to become armed robbers. Their first major score that we know of took place on the 20th of July 1993. The two men targeted an armoured van which was transferring money to the First Bank's Littleton branch in Colorado. The men had been making notes on the scheduled routes, timetables, and procedures associated with the cash transfer. As the driver and his assistant were unlocking the van,
Bro, I only seen like them little money trucks a couple times in my whole life.
the men
And
ambushed them
never
with
you never see him for real.
AK-47s and had them quickly load the money into bags, and then they sped off before the cops arrived. Shortly after this success, however, Larry and Emil got pulled over for speeding in Glendale, northeast LA. The police searched the car and discovered that the men were packing 3 AK-47s, some explosives, smoke bombs, and thousands of rounds of ammunition. One of the investigating officers actually went as far as to describe it as a bank robbery kit. Despite all of that, though, the two men only served a 100-day sentence with 3 years of probation, which ended in January of 1996. They even actually managed to get their guns back after they met a few bail conditions, meaning that they would still
Oh,
be able to go out and commit armed robberies
what the fuck?
without having to source new guns.
What the
On the
fuck?
14th of June 1995, Larry and Emil targeted another armoured van just outside of the Winnetka Avenue branch of the Bank of America. Though the robbers still managed to get away with the money, the guards fought back this time, unfortunately resulting in one of the guards being killed and another guard being very badly wounded. Though these van raids would be pulling in a fair amount of cash, Larry and Emil wanted much, much more. So instead of targeting armoured vans stopping off at the banks, the men decided to go after the banks themselves. Their main tactic would be to cover themselves head to toe in armour, drawing inspiration from a potential Aussie mad lad. Larry would hand stitch an entire bodysuit made from a material called aramid, which would make him practically invincible to small arms fire. Emil only wore armour that covered his torso so that he could remain more mobile, but he added a thick metal plate to his tactical vest which would deflect heavier rounds. They armed themselves with AK-47s and armour-piercing rounds.
Bro,
As the
is it gonna be hard to run in though? That's a real question. Or not, yeah, run. Like run and walk around like that shit. If it's heavy, big ass metal to protect you from bullets and shit like that, it should definitely be like heavy, like really heavy. So it's like, can you run? How's that gonna work? You have to walk around like a big ass like Iron Man, but like heavier though. You know, Iron Man kind of he can still walk around. You feel me? But it's gonna be even more though. Literally.
the bulletproof windows and doors protecting the tellers in the banks were only designed to withstand fire from handguns and shotguns. After getting everyone on the ground, one of the robbers would force the manager to open the vault and fill their bags with cash. After this, they would then run to their car and drive off before the police arrived. And they would aim to do all of this within 8 minutes maximum, as this is how long they had estimated the police response time to be. They would successfully hit 2 Bank of America branches in May of 1996, securing around $1.7 million. Adding in the armoured van raids, their total score amounted to around $2 million. And after the police linked all of these heists to the same suspects, they were dubbed the High Incident Bandits because of the terror tactics and over-the-top equipment that they used. By this point,
Oh, they had jackets
the
on. That's
bandits
smart. That's actually smart to have jackets. I was thinking like they was gonna walk around with like just showing it. You feel me? But you wouldn't even know. You would think they just normal. Down there just normal. You feel me? Shoot at them and they got whole bulletproof. You feel? They got a whole motherfucking suit under this motherfucker.
tactics and
I ain't gonna lie. You down there? Gotta shoot at their feet. Really think about it. Shoot their feet. Cause you can't do nothing with your legs. So they ain't gonna run. If somebody shoot you in your foot, bro, that's gonna hurt.
the top equipment that they used.
You can't run away.
By this point, the bandits probably thought they were on a good roll, and after having treated themselves to new houses and lavish cars, they prepared for their next heist. The Bank of America branch in Laurel Canyon Boulevard, North Hollywood. By all accounts, it was looking to be just another usual heist for the bandits. They used the same body armour, the same guns, and synced up their stopwatches in accordance with the police response time. The bank itself wasn't particularly special either, just a small local branch which they hoped to get a good $750,000 from. But small and gradual changes in their luck would make this robbery far different from all the others. The bandits decided to strike on the 28th of February 1997. They got out from their parked car and started walking towards the bank entrance at 9:17 a.m. However, their carefully calculated police response time went completely out the window. Because just as they were walking into the bank, a squad car was just going past and spotted the two Ned Kelly cosplayers walking into the bank with massive assault rifles. Sensibly suspecting that an armed robbery was about to take place.
Wait, hold on. Did he say, what did he say?
They were walking into the bank. A squad car was...
A squad car. What is a squad car? Is that just a regular cars? Or what type of car is it?
Players walking into the bank with massive assault rifles. Sensibly suspecting that an armed robbery was about to take place, the squad car called for backup.
This is the actual call they make.
5840, requesting assistance. We have a possible 211 in progress at the...
Yeah, this is definitely a squad car, I mean a regular car. Okay.
Upon entering the bank, the men immediately let off rounds from their AKs and got everyone on the ground. Again, it was the same plan as before. Shoot the glass, get access to the vault, bag the cash, and be back home in time for breakfast.
And this remind me of that game Money Heist. Wait, is it called Money Heist? Man, is it called Money Heist, bro? It's a bro, I think it's called Money Heist though. I think that's what this game. Y'all know I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm bringing back memories.
However, when Larry accompanied the manager to the vault, instead of a massive stack of cash waiting for him, the manager completely cleared the vault with only $300,000 in total. It turns out that the Bank of America deliberately varied the times of its cash deliveries each week. So despite Emil and Larry's extensive prep work, it was basically all down to luck how much money would be in the vault. Even worse was the fact that because of new company policy, the manager couldn't even open the ATMs, meaning that the bandits were only leaving with a fraction of the money they were expecting to get. Larry got into such a fit of rage about it that he just started spraying bullets into the vault, destroying the remaining piles of cash. And as if that wasn't bad enough, a dye pack that was in the bag amongst the money had actually exploded.
Bro, what?
Making most of the $300,000 they had just stolen
dumbass
completely worthless. You can just imagine how frustrated the bandits were getting at this whole situation.
Yo!
But the bad luck didn't stop there. As all of this was going on, responding squad cars were flooding in, surrounding the bank and blocking every possible escape route. As the two bandits exited the bank at 9:24 a.m, they were shocked to see that they were completely surrounded by police. They thought that they still had the 8-minute response time because they never actually noticed the squad car that saw them go into
they
the
never
bank.
seen it. They stupid
As far
ass.
as professional bank robbery goes, literally every single thing that a bank robber would not want to go wrong
went wrong. Despite being so heavily outnumbered, and after a half-a-minute standoff,
The bandits...
Bro, that is a bad look, though. You gotta think about it. They were literally walking in with their AKs about to rob that bitch, and literally a car came past. A cop drove right past your dumbass. Oh, and then it'll make it worse is they could, even if it did happen, at least they could see it, know that the police seen us type shit. But they didn't even see them, so that makes it even worse. Oh, that's
raised
tough.
their rifles and started spraying automatic fire at all of the police. At this point, you're probably thinking that this was just going to be an instance of suicide by cop, but the bandits probably did think that they could still get away. As I said before,
They did, right?
the bandits wore armor which would protect them from
they
pistol
had it on.
and shotgun fire. Well, in 1997, those exact firearms were the only types that LA cops had access to. The robbers' armor was that good that even a close-range blast from a shotgun wouldn't do anything more.
Wait, what about their face though? What about their head? The headshot. They have head protective gear too?
Than make the bandits feel like they'd just been pushed a little. The only way for the police to take the bandits down was to line up a perfect shot to the head. However, the handguns they were using were very inaccurate at the ranges they were firing from, and because was to line up a perfect shot to the head. However, the handguns they were using were very inaccurate at the ranges they were firing from.
Damn.
And because the bandits were laying down constant automatic fire, the police didn't have time to carefully line up a shot. So why didn't the police have access to weapons that would have helped them deal with situations like this? Armed robberies in LA were basically a dime a dozen at this point, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be so under-equipped for the job. Well, it turns out that this was done for political reasons. On the 3rd of March 1991, a certain black fellow named Rodney King was beaten up by LA police after being pulled over for driving while black. The cops involved all got acquitted of wrongful conduct, which sparked the LA race riots of 1992. We spoke about all of this in the Roof Koreans video. But after these riots, local politicians were very wary of increasing the arsenal of the police in fear of this gesture causing further, mostly peaceful protests.
Bro,
so
what the fuck?
That is why the police were still limited to just shotguns and handguns. The police had been begging for the state authorities to allow cops on the beat to have access to an AR-15 in their vehicle, and despite the police presenting evidence that criminals were able to get their hands on some very powerful armour and weaponry, this request was always refused by Californian politicians. Well, this decision was now having its consequences. The bandits were not only able to withstand the police fire, but the bandits, remember, are using armour-piercing rounds, which meant that when the police were taking cover behind their squad cars, the bandits were just shooting straight through the cars and hitting the police behind them, severely injuring them.
How did they have better guns than the people, the actual police that's supposed to have the best guns? That's actually crazy.
And also, a lot of pedestrians were also getting wounded by stray bullet fire from the bandits, meaning that this decision had put both the police and the public in massive danger. The media were soon beginning to swoop in, both on foot and in helicopters, to get a better view of what was happening. And it turns out that even those in the helicopters weren't safe, as the bandits even started shooting at them. This was already an unprecedented situation, but what happened next made the shootout even more strange. 7 minutes into the firefight, Emil had obviously identified that this was the perfect time to make a clean getaway without having police cars immediately on their tail. Emil ran to their getaway car and screamed at Larry, telling him to get in, but Larry refused and continued to fight the police. Given what we know,
They literally was playing GTA bank rob heist. Bank heist. GTA bank heist. That's what this is.
about Larry,
Literally.
he probably knew how
You gotta wear, don't you gotta wear, you definitely wear armor on there, but I know it's not that big of armor, but you definitely wear some armor. But they usually have like a escape route or something to a car. They just said, fuck, we shoot these motherfuckers, you shooting.
much of a disadvantage the police were at, and he probably wanted to take his frustration of the botched heist out on them.
Oh, this is the real shit. Damn, he shooting. Oh yeah, what about the ammo? They say had thousands of ammo, but is the ammo on them? Like, how are they carrying the ammo? Is this the real shit? This must be the real shit. These niggas in suits and shit. Man, I ain't gonna lie, bro. Nigga, man, look, bro. You would never catch me out here trying to report on this shit. Nigga, these niggas are shooting right now. You're trying to... Yeah, okay. He better get like a super duper raise. Doing this shit. No cap. He literally risking his life. He's literally risking his life. Like, one wrong bullet, go through this car right here. Right here. All I gotta do is come right here through your fucking head, and now you dead on TV. Damn.
En este momento la policía está intercambiando balas con los presuntos asaltantes.
Y'all niggas better stay right there, nigga.
It was only 10 minutes into the fighting, and there was already a lot of police and civilians getting very heavily wounded. Frantic attempts were now being made not to kill the bandits, but to rescue the seriously injured officers and pedestrians before they bled to death.
Wait, what?
Attempts were now being made not to kill the bandits, but to rescue the seriously injured officers and pedestrians before
Damn.
they bled to death.
Yeah, so that means they weren't even trying to kill them no more. They was just trying to save everybody.
Frantic attempts were now being made not to kill the bandits.
Frantic attempts.
One of the officers who had received a pretty painful shot to the back. The dentist even attempted to dress the wound and used the local anaesthetic he had to treat the pain. It may not have been the treatment that the officer needed, but it was enough to buy him some time for the medics to eventually get to him. Though they were able to rescue the officers located further away from the line of fire, the police were unable to reach the officers and pedestrians.
Oh, you can't even show it on
stranded in
YouTube.
the areas closer to the bandits.
Can't even show it on
Some
YouTube.
officers became so desperate that they visited a nearby gun store called B&B, and the store owner allowed the officers to take whatever rifles and ammo they needed without even processing the receipts.
And I okayed the plan of action, which was to loan them a number of weapons and fill a number of magazines with ammunition for them and send them on their way. And basically all we did was what I think any reasonable person would do under the circumstances.
It was just at this moment that SWAT teams finally began to arrive on the scene. Apparently they were called upon so urgently that some of the members who were out for a training run just shoved on a tactical vest and turned up wearing their tank tops and running shorts. The SWAT team was soon able to commandeer an armoured van, which,
Right there.
ironically,
It took this long. It took this long for the SWAT team to get. I thought the SWAT team was the backup. I thought the backup was the SWAT team. The fuck? How did the SWAT team just not get in here?
and turned up wearing their tank tops and running shorts. The SWAT team was soon able to commandeer an armoured van, which, ironically, was on its way to make a delivery to the very bank that was being robbed. And due to the van providing more than enough cover, the SWAT team was able to successfully rescue the rest of the wounded officers and civilians around the bank. Larry probably sensed that the tide was turning and decided that now would be a good time to finally escape. But he didn't jump in the car right away and make a quick takeoff. Instead, he walked slowly beside the car to give Emil
Most of the officers and civilians were shot and injured by the
some
gun.
covering fire whilst he
Wait, these are people, right?
started to drive. And what's really chill off, instead he walked slowly beside the car to give Emil some covering fire whilst he started to drive. And what's really chilling is that even though SWAT and better armed officers were arriving,
What is they really gonna do though? Them leaving down there, like they're fucked at this point. They already know where they at. They got helicopters in the air. Like everybody is looking at you right now. You can't get in a car. It's gonna follow you. Like you can't outrun the police, bro. I don't understand what they about to do here.
on the scene, the police radio operators still advised for officers in the bandits' path to not engage them for their own safety. Despite this, the police didn't exactly want two dangerous men to escape, especially after these men had downed so many of their fellow officers. So the cops shot out all of the tires of their getaway vehicle,
That's the best thing to do.
which made Larry abandon Emil and try to make his own escape attempt on foot.
Dumbass.
Larry made his way around the corner from the bank and then took cover behind a lorry. The police then surrounded all possible exits, so Larry would be forced to fight no matter where he went. As he continued to move forward and fire at oncoming police, one officer managed to score a lucky hit on Larry's unprotected thumb, blowing it clean off.
Damn.
Though Larry could continue to fire, this injury made it impossible for him to clear a bullet that had suddenly jammed inside his AK. So at this point, Larry simply threw his AK down and drew his pistol and started firing back at the officer. However, the reality of the situation was beginning to dawn on Larry. He realised that the chance of him escaping without getting killed or arrested was pretty much zero. So Larry decided to end the fight on his own terms.
Shoot
He
yourself?
took his pistol, put it
Oh!
under his chin,
Do not show this.
and said goodnight. Though that was
I'm glad he didn't show that nigga. I was like, how am I even watching this right now? Fucking, YouTube don't be playing, bro. I be getting strike for this, like, bro. It's be irritating. You feel me? Especially since I'm not monetized. YouTube definitely on my ass. They be letting niggas that's monetized, you feel me, slide through. Kind of fucked up, but the way it is. But you would have showed that, I'd have been so mad, bro.
one of the bandits taken care of, the other was still on the loose, albeit in a trundling, bullet-ridden wreck
That
of a
nigga killed
car.
himself, huh? Wait, how did he?
Emil
Wait.
was-
He had armor on. How did he just shoot himself in the chest?
Already injured at this taken care of, the other was still on the loose, albeit in a trundling, bullet-ridden wreck of a car. Emil was already injured at this point and was desperate to make a quick getaway. As he was driving through the streets, he spotted a yellow Jeep coming towards him, which he intended to use as his new getaway vehicle. Performing the tried and true GTA method, he fired at the windscreen of the Jeep, frightening the driver into getting out and running away. Emil then proceeded to load all of his stuff into the Jeep and hopped in. But then he suddenly realised that he couldn't turn the ignition on because the driver had made sure to take his keys with him when he ran off. The cheeky bastard. At this point, it was too late. A squad car had screeched to a halt in front of the Jeep, with police armed with rifles quickly taking up positions beside Emil. Emil hobbled back behind his original getaway car and began firing on police again. The police were unable to get a clear shot at Emil's head, but soon realised that they could shoot at his legs from underneath the cars. It took about 29 bullets to the legs before Emil finally went down and offered his surrender to the police. The last shot was fired at 10:04 a.m. meaning that
Damn, this wasn't no more. I forgot it was at night. Oh my god, these niggas was just waking up. Oh my god, it was 9 a.m. this whole time, bro. I think that's like 6, bro. It's 9 a.m. So I guess that's probably the best thing to do is rob a bank in the morning. I'm not a bank robber, so I don't know. So it was said it was all calculated, so I guess it is.
fight had lasted for 44 minutes. It was estimated that the bandits had fired around 1,200 bullets throughout the whole battle, which averages to around a bullet being fired at least once every 2 seconds. When the police finally handcuffed him, Emil refused to cooperate in any question and repeatedly screamed at the police to shoot him in the head. The police did call for an ambulance for him, however, EMTs weren't allowed to enter what's called a hot zone, which is an area where the police and medics believe that a shooter is still active. And because there was so much confusion as to how many shooters there actually were, ambulances were only able to arrive 70 minutes after Emil had surrendered.
Oh, he did.
And because of this delay,
That nigga died too.
they didn't make it in time, and Emil bled to death.
That's tough.
Aside from the shooters, in what has to be an absolute miracle, no one actually died from what was one of the most
no one
brutal
died?
shootouts in
Oh,
American criminal history.
That's crazy.
12 officers and 8 civilians were injured, with some being permanently disabled. One
Damn.
officer was so traumatized by what happened that he immediately quit the force and became a youth pastor.
Damn.
The absolute bravery and selflessness of many of these officers was rightly rewarded, with 19 of them receiving the Medal of Valor and getting to meet the President of the United States. However, the praise wasn't entirely universal. Emil's family tried to sue some of the arresting officers for negligence by allegedly allowing Emil to bleed out. The case ended up not going anywhere, and the family was forced to withdraw from legal action, or else they would have gotten charged themselves for malicious prosecution. If there was anything good to come out of this whole ordeal, it was that public perception soon changed from suspicion to adoration of ordinary cops in LA. It also finally convinced politicians to actually care about the safety and protection of ordinary police officers. The law was changed so that LA cops had access to an AR-15 in the trunk of their car, with many other states following suit. In 2003, a TV movie called 44 Minutes was aired, and it based itself on the events of the North Hollywood shootout. But what's strange about this, however, is the fact that the shootout itself might have been inspired by a movie. When police investigated Larry's home, they had found a finished VHS tape of the movie Heat, whose final scene very closely resembled the actions taken by the bandits. So if we were to assume that the movie Heat inspired the bandits' final stand against the police, we could say that 44 Minutes is art imitating life, which in turn imitated art. In 2004, the LAPD Museum would debut an exhibit on the North Hollywood shootout. The displays showcased the bandits' gear, their getaway vehicle, and the other police vehicles which were shot out during the battle. And apparently some of the officers present at the shootout who attended the opening ceremony got so emotional at seeing these items again that they were immediately brought to tears. I think most police, in their hearts, are extremely brave and honourable people who are more than prepared to risk their lives to protect others. You know, hashtag not all and all that, you know, not the ones that are killing suspects or arresting people for tweets. But you know, let's not tar them all with the same brush. But Larry and Emil's crime spree was brought to an end just by two cops being in the right place at the right time.
But they still would have been down bad though, because even if they didn't be there, still hadn't get no money. They still would have been down bad, so I guess that shit just would never happen. They still, because remember, Warner still was mad about he ain't had no money. Feel me? He still blew up all that shit, so all that shit would have still happened. Feel me? Just them walking out and seeing all the cops, that's the only thing that changed about the situation. So, hey man.
Or the wrong time. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to have been there.
Oh god. Oh god though. Hey man, y'all like, comment, subscribe. Comment on me. Get to next man. Follow me on Instagram so I'm most active at. On the grind to 1K man, and I'm out.